So I'm just walking home from work again. I did film a video yesterday talking about the celebrity leaks, and that may or may not go up depending upon how I think it went, because I might have said some things in there that sort of come across as I'm a bit of a chauvinist and maybe a bit of a twat. But I want to discuss this because it mattered to me enough that I thought it required some sort of coverage. So you may or may not have heard there's this thing called Gamergate or Gamersgate, and the short and long of the TLDR version of where this all comes from, and I'll discuss obviously more from there, is a woman called Zoe Quinn, who's an independent developer, created this shit game, and people were vilifying her because it was a shit game, and all the feminists were saying, oh, you're saying it's a shit game because she's a woman developer, yada yada yada. So it transpires, oh, and basically the press were doing a really positive view on this game and saying it was how good it was, and actually gamers hated it because it was a shit game. I've not checked it out, I don't know if it is a shit game or not, but that's apparently how the story goes. It transpires after then that she was going out with some guy, and she was cheating on him, supposedly. This is all supposed, this isn't actual fact, there's no evidence for it, it's just this is what's supposed to have happened. He put a list of stuff of why she was a horrible person and this, that, and the other, so they all broke up, she was a liar, yada yada yada. Turns out she was sleeping with him and he was a writer for some blog or for some gaming site, and she slept with a lot of other people that were also bloggers for gaming sites, and so she had an unfair advantage in the gaming industry because she was sleeping with all these people and they were giving her positive reviews about this shitty game that she created. So that was that. Then obviously the shit hit the fan because everybody complained and said, oh, that's not fair, you know, it's this, that and the other. And then a few feminists piped up and then said, oh, typical men, gamers are all idiots, and then all the mainstream news sites were slagging off gamers and saying how crap they were and we're all misogynists and all this other stuff. Now the argument for Gamersgate is that the mainstream media are just shit, they're biased, they're getting paid, they're just click whores basically, and they're not actually genuinely into gaming and all this other kind of stuff. Now this is nothing new. I could have told you that 2 years ago, where the likes of just any news site relating to a specific genre, so tech news for instance, Engadget, The Verge to a certain extent not so much, Polygon, pretty much any company that's owned by AOL now, any company pretty much owned by the Vox network. I actually had to stop because this hill's stupidly steep and I can't operate the camera and climb up a massive hill, it turns out. But it also does mean you get quite a good view of the village that I live in, or at least the hazy view of the village that I live in. So the likes of Polygon and Vice and all these kinds of websites that have some element of gaming in them, although not really very much. But basically most modern journalism is fucking shit. It's biased, it's bought, it's clickbait, it's just crap. And all of a sudden, because of this Zoe Quinn affair, everyone and their uncle is banging, you know, sort of jumping on the bandwagon and saying, oh, you know, modern journalism is crap. And yeah, that's been the case for a while. We've all known that. I've hated the likes of Polygon for ages. Kotaku, one of the ones I really cannot stand. And because they're all shit. They're all clickbait based. They don't really care too much about the content. They're more about reporting what everybody else is reporting and just getting you, if there's no news, then you just fabricate some news and create some article on it that gets people to click on it, and generally poorly written and everything else like that. So that's nothing new, and journalism in general is just shit anyway, because it's all, you know, you just look at the American news networks, you can notice that actually that news is not, it's not for the public interest at all. It's all commercial, it's all got some agenda to it. MSNBC, even the BBC in the UK, for Christ's sake, that's supposed to be paid for by the taxpayer, but it's got its own political motives. It's just, you know, no news site of that kind of magnitude is independent enough and genuinely into the interest subject that they cover anymore, which is just abysmal. And so this again is nothing new. It's just suddenly all of a sudden become news because people that didn't really notice it now noticed it, or have decided to actually do something about it, as opposed to doing something about it when they noticed it. I personally don't link to the Kotaku stuff or Polygon. I try to avoid unless the article they've created is really genuinely good. Like, if it's genuinely puts all the points across that I want to make, or that actually covers the news really well, then yes, I will, because I think that article, specific article, deserves the views or whatever. Engadget, I'm not so annoyed as to not link to it and not to view their stuff, but I certainly don't check it every day like I used to, because a lot of the stuff that's on there isn't relevant at all to technology. It's just generic social BS that nobody really goes there for. Because if you wanted all that kind of stuff, you just watch the mainstream news anyway. But ignoring all of that, let's talk about the bloody feminists that really get on my bloody nerves. The thing that I haven't got a problem with feminism. Well, no, I have. I haven't got a problem with feminism. All I have is that its label means fuck all nowadays. Feminists, basically those that generally identify themselves as feminists, aren't really feminists. They're just hateful towards men. They're just basically female chauvinists. Because they don't actually want equal rights for women. What they want is priority rights for women, and they basically just hate all men, and, you know, all men are misogynists, and all this group of people are misogynists, blah blah blah. And, you know, they just generally despise anybody that doesn't really agree with them. And so some militant feminist, who really, there is only one kind of feminist, that's militant feminism. There's no other kind of feminism, because other kinds of feminism are just called common decency. That's just not discriminating against anybody. That's just not feminism, that's just common courtesy as a decent human being. So some of the feminists piped up and basically were saying, oh well, this woman's been victimised because she's a woman and everybody's been misogynistic and all this other bullshit. And it's all kind of kicked off from there. And the short and long of it is, there's nothing misogynistic about hating a game. The reason the game's hated is because it's a shit game. If you actually look at gamers as a generic thing, and there's been loads of content created on it, and I don't really want to cover the same sort of stuff. I kind of want to put my own impartial thing around it. But basically, the gamers are not bad at all by any stretch of the imagination. And, you know, generic gamers are not at all, and even the hardcore gamers aren't really that bad. The majority of them, the silent majority usually, are ones that you know, will like the game for the game. They won't like the game because of any specific genre, well, usually a genre, but they won't like it for any specific political statement they're trying to make, or they won't like it because some specific developer created the game. They don't care too much about that. That's not about it. You know, if a female, you know, if a woman wants to create a game, great, fantastic. We need more women in gaming. That's great. I welcome that, as does everybody else, it seems, because there was a Indiegogo campaign, I think, trying to raise 40 grand for some, I think it was a women's only the gaming developer thing, or something like that. They wanted to get more female developers into the gaming industry, which is great because we need that. And the majority of the people that backed it, I think it might have now possibly been backed, were men. 95% of the demographic were men. So if that suggests that all gamers are misogynists, which is what most of the feminists, who are also not gamers as well, by the way, is what they claim that we are, then they don't seem to have very much evidence to back that up. Now, the whole thing with this stuff that annoys me to no end, apart from the fact that feminists really piss me off, because anybody that identifies themselves as a feminist isn't actually a feminist. All they really want is, they don't want equal rights for women, they just want lesser rights for men and for women to be on top. But one of the things that really pisses me off, apart from the feminists bloody jumping on the bloody bandwagon, is the other idiots that are now suddenly, all of a sudden, deciding to boycott these websites, that they, as if it was some big surprise that, you know, the likes of Kotaku create crap articles, and the likes of all these other companies create crap articles. We've known that for bloody ages, which is why things like YouTube are kicking off. That's why the likes of me, not to be arrogant, the likes of me can do this and create a following, because people are fed up with the mainstream bullshit that nobody really cares about. It doesn't actually help anybody, because all it's there for is to make money. It's got no other purpose apart from to make money. It's not there to report the news. It's there to it's got some political motive behind it. It's got some commercial incentive as to why the article exists. Either whether or not that's, you know, a game developer that's paid the money to cover a specific title. IGN's a perfect example of this. IGN's stuff has gone, well, it's been shit for 5 years or more. It's been crap. You know, they've created stuff that's just crap. It's not relevant to gaming necessarily. The articles they create are crap. They praise specific games that genuinely are crap. I mean, you look at Call of Duty. Call of Duty is a prime example. If you're a proper gamer, and I'm not including the Call of Duty fanatics in this, because they're all a bunch of idiots, because they haven't got any idea. This is me being just a general twat, really. But You know, Call of Duty is a shit game. It's not competitive, it's generic, they copy and paste the game every whip and flip. Basically, every single release of Call of Duty is a texture pack and a DLC for the original Call of Duty 4, which was a decent game. Ever since Modern Warfare 2, pretty much, it's gone downhill. Black Ops was crap. World at War, I think, was the last decent Call of Duty. Modern Warfare, no, the first Modern Warfare was good, was a good Call of Duty, and everything before that was good, but nobody really knows about it because nobody jumped on the bandwagon until Modern Warfare 2. That game has received, I mean, you just look at the media surrounding that game, it's a shit game, and you look at, like, well, MLG, which really pisses me off as well, because they're kind of part of the same thing. You know, Major League Gaming is a big thing now, and companies are making money left, right and centre on streaming events, on sponsorship, on all this other kind of stuff, on a game that is reasonably easy to play. It's not a difficult game, there's no real tactics like that, there's teamwork, yeah, but it's not on the same level as something like League of Legends or World of Warcraft or something like that. The original MLG kind of games that did tournaments and, you know, that won big prizes and stuff like that. I hate those games personally. I can't stand them. I don't see why you would even bother playing them because they're boring, and I don't particularly like that kind of gameplay. But that kind of gameplay is actually competitive. It's a thing. It's a proper career, as it were. And then you get things like Call of Duty that come along and steal the limelight, and it's not even a good game. Like Battlefield, for instance. I mean, that's not a good game either, but it's more competitive than Call of Duty is. The reason it's not a good game is because EA are a bunch of twats as well, and they insist on charging you every 5 seconds for DLC, and their servers are crap, and there's no real LAN support like that. And so this whole culture of gaming has just been vilified by just idiots, just absolute idiots, because I just don't see where it's all come from. You know, this whole mainstream gaming AAA title thing that seems to be everywhere now. But on the positive side of that, indie games are really gaining ground, both in the mobile space, both on low-powered systems in terms of PCs and stuff. I mean, you just look at, you know, Steam Greenlight. You just look at the stuff that's come out that people love, and that, you know, they've earned lots of money on. All they've created is a couple of shitty games, and one game has been like an indie game that everybody's loved because of its satire, or things like Surgeon Simulator, for instance. Great game, was created as a bit of a joke at some conference or other. They released it. They made loads of money on that. Well, look at Euro Truck Simulator. Bunch of indie developers, not really a very big studio, managed to create one of the best games ever, really popular game. It might not tick everybody's boxes, some people will say, well, what a boring game that is, but it's done really well, and it's an indie game. It's not, you know, it's not been backed by some, you know, multi-million pound, multi-billion dollar business that that's been, you know, around and about for years and years. It's not like that anymore. And you just look, if you just go onto Steam, the amount of indie games there are, especially on Greenlight and stuff, is absolutely fantastic, and people will prefer things like that. You know, there's loads of really, really amazing indie titles that are a lot cheaper, perform a lot better, and more artsy-fartsy stuff, which is what gaming's about. It's not about having a copy and paste of reality and putting it into a game, unless that's what you want. I mean, like Battlefield 4 is fantastic for that, because it's a copy and paste of a combat simulation, really, simplified, and it means you can kind of, you know, play out your childhood fantasy of just, you know, killing other people. But then you get other things like Limbo, for instance. Fantastic artsy game, really great. You know, if you were just to assess that as an art piece in of itself, it's absolutely fantastic. So this video has kind of gone on for far too long, and I've kind of missed some of the points I really wanted to raise in the first place. But I wanted to leave you with a couple of things. Number one, gamers are not misogynistic. In fact, they're the complete and utter opposite. Feminists are a bunch of twats, generally speaking. This is only because those that actually identify themselves as feminists are generally detestable human beings. Because I don't know anybody that identifies themselves as a feminist who isn't a complete and utter twat, and who also isn't a woman. And journalism in general has gone to shit. Tech journalism and gaming journalism has been crap for, you know, about 5 years. I think it sort of kind of all went downhill when I started uni, I think. Because Engadget was really good, and I don't quite know what happened. They sold themselves out, and now they just produce crap all the time. There's still some really good stuff there. They do, the majority of stuff they create is really good, and it's the same with The Verge. The majority of the stuff they create is good, and then once in a while they go off the handle and create some shitty article about some, you know, philosophical or social debate, and it's like, I didn't come here for this shit. I came here because I want to find out what's going on in the latest tech news. I came here because I want to find out what the latest and greatest games are. I didn't come here to have some pseudo-political debate about LGBTQ issues and feminism and any of that bullshit. I didn't come here for that. You know, that's what the mainstream news is for. And the thing is, with the other thing I wanted to mention was that, you know, the bloody feminists are picking out specific games saying that, oh, it vilifies women and it objectifies women and all this other kind of stuff. It only objectifies women because the rest of society objectifies women. It's not specific to gaming at all. It's more specific to just everything. Every digital media is like that. You look at films, you look at TV, you look at news. You look at news anchors, for goodness sake. Have you ever seen an ugly news anchor? Now, whose fault was that? And that's not the public's fault. I couldn't give a shit as long as they can produce good content. You know, no one gives a shit about that. But the likes of the networks, especially in America, you know, like Fox News and CNN and MSNBC and the BBC over here, they want to have people that don't look ugly because they have this weird idea that people don't like ugly people to present, you know, things on TV or something weird. And it's just like, it's not about that. It's about them being competent in their job. That's all it's about. And this is what really pisses me off in today's society, where you get positive discrimination against people that can actually do the job, and somebody else, somebody that's black, or that they're gay, or they're a lesbian, or they're a woman, or they kind of come from an area that is supposed to be underrepresented, and then the reason it's underrepresented isn't necessarily because of discrimination. It's underrepresented because those kind of people don't want to do it, or whatever. And what happens is the people that actually genuinely can do the job and are good at that job end up not getting the job because, you know, somebody else has got it, you know, or because they're trying to tick a box. And it's like, no, people need to take a step back and actually look at the person for what they can do in the job. It doesn't matter whether or not they're a woman, it doesn't matter about what they look like, that's not the point. If they can do the job, great. And if they can do it really well, fantastic. Because that's the thing at the moment, we get all these box ticking and you get all this incompetency and idiocy because they've hired the wrong person for the job, because they've been sleeping with somebody, or because they are box ticking. And that's not the way to bloody behave in a modern society at all. But annoyingly, it's the chauvinists and it's the bloody bigots that ruin it for everybody else, because they're the kind of people that means we have laws and stupid policies which mean that we've got to try and actively encourage a certain percentage of minority groups, because we've got these bloody chauvinists and bigots that just don't want to have women in power, and they don't want to have these kind of people there, because they don't look at that person as how good they are in that job. They look at that person and say, well, that's a woman, I don't like women, I don't agree that that woman should be here, all women should be in a kitchen kind of mentality, which is absolute crap and makes it shit for everybody else. Wow, what a bloody rant. So that's kind of me done, really. Yeah, I don't really care what you think of my opinions on this, and if I lose subscribers, I lose subscribers, but I wanted to let you sort of give my opinions on it and let you know what I think. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm going to start walking down now, because this hill, that hill is reasonably steep, and walking up that hill with a camera in your hand is really, really difficult. And also walking down it is really, really difficult as well, because I'm trying to look at my feet and look in the lens and try not to fall on my arse. But anyway, yes, that's pretty much all I've got to say. Put some comments down below. I really want to hear your comments, because it's a free, open, democratic society, and unless you're going to be a complete and utter bigot and genuinely be hateful as opposed to being banterous, then yes, I will delete your comment. But you know, it's a free and open democratic society. Put some comments down below. I don't care if you disagree with me. I really welcome disagreeing comments. I really want to hear what you've got to say on the matter. I'll put some links in the description below of kind of the stories about Zoe Quinn and all those other cunts that have kicked off this big debate. And apart from that, I shall catch you in a later video.